green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! All right, I'm pretty sure we're going to get punched up here in a second. There we are. The Mac and Mac guys on Birds 365. John McMullen and Jody McDonald. J Mac, you ready for a weekend? Is this going to actually be an Eagle weekend? Are they actually going to do some practicing or at least some drills?
Yeah, who knows? It's going to rain, Jody. that could affect everything. They're going to run around. They're going to run around in T-shirts and shorts.
Nice.
Might be in the bubble, but they're going to do some running around. The rookies are.
Right. So let's start right there. They've got a handful of rookies, not enough to play an 11-11 football game. But,
yeah, well, you can't do football drills anyway, so that fixes that out.
So what exactly do they do?
A lot of conditioning, a lot of drills, a lot of individual, working with the position coaches. So you'll see the quarterbacks throw the football a little bit,
Wouldn't that be considered a football drill?
Well, I meant team drills. I should be specific, 11 on 11, you were saying, and you don't, but
they don't have enough guys to do 11 on 11, even if it was allowable.
But yeah, even if they did, it wouldn't be allowable. So that helps with rookie camp, at least when you have those numbers. But, the undrafted guys, there'll be some tryout players there. Penn State kid is coming in, power forward on the basketball team to try out as a tight end. And it's a kickoff to every football season. Used to be 3 days. Now it's 2 days. That's everything is
like everything else.
Like everything else is scaled back and less work. But I do talk about the off season all the time. Look, I've been on this camp for years and years and years. It's not important for the veteran players. There's a lot of hand wringing across the country when somebody doesn't show up for voluntary work or what have you. And, people say, you got to be in. As long as you keep yourself in shape as a veteran player, that's all they're worried about. It's not really impactful for them. I do think it is impactful for the young players, though. Just, to get geared up in the system, to get the terminology, to start understanding. And by the way, from a human perspective, just to get comfortable. It's a new job, and most of these kids are moving from different places into Philadelphia just to get some normalcy and to get some – everybody can identify with that. Everybody's had a new job and the anxiety it creates, and, sometimes you got to move for a job and you don't know the city or the place you're going, and it's uncomfortable. So that's one of those things that not a lot of people think about. It's very, very real. And then, you're talking basically very young kids as well, have to do this. So I do think it is important, the off-season program for rookie players. I always have.
It's funny that you say people don't think about it. Excuse me, because I was thinking about it just yesterday. Did the Eagles help these young men? I want to call them kids because they're kids compared to you and I, but they're professionals and they're going to be out there playing in the National Football League next year if they're good enough to make it. But you're right; they're 20-something-year-old kids coming in from, in some places, the other side of the country. They don't know the city of Philadelphia. They've lived in dorms or their parents' house, chances are, up until this point. Now they have to find quote unquote housing for themselves. Did the Eagles help out with that? Do they have
Oh
somebody
yeah.
who
Oh
works
yeah.
with them and helps them find a rental or a hotel or whatever? How do most of these kids do find living over this summer leading up to the season when they will find out if they did or didn't make the Philadelphia Eagles or their practice squad?
Well, they do have, again, it's, yeah, they help. That's the short answer. But, and obviously they do have a team hotel that shall remain nameless. But, it's different stages. Obviously, veteran players are, if you're making a lot of money, if you're Hassan Reddick, and Hassan's from the area anyway, you don't need as much help. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players like the undrafted guys coming in. They're not looking for places yet. They're just going to stay at the team hotel and they get shuttled back and forth to the NovaCare complex every day. But there are some complexes the Eagles steer young players toward. One is very close to the NovaCare complex. So yeah, they help out and they realize, and every team realizes that's one of those things you have to do because yeah, I mean, you can imagine if you're coming from Texas and hey, you're plopped down in South Philadelphia and now go find a place to live at 22, you're not going to know what to do. So yeah, that's a very important part of the process.
All right, so a bunch of drills that the young guys will be going through over the next couple of days, and I think the point you made was dead on. That do I actually think someone will become a better football player because of these next 2 days? Probably not. Maybe somebody picks up on something, but that's not the main reason that they have this 2-day get together. It's to kind of indoctrinate yourself into the Philadelphia Eagles and your teammates. That you don't know any of the teammates. You don't know anybody when you come in. Maybe you get lucky. There's one guy you played against
Jordan Davis,
somewhere.
Nakobe Dean, they know each other. That does, by the way, that makes it a lot more comfortable if you go to a place with one of your college teammates or somebody you're very, very close to. So yeah, I wouldn't downplay that. That's very important. Well, it's cool to have somebody going through the same thing as you, as opposed to somebody who's just what I just mentioned is
Yep.
just plopping in, doesn't know anybody. So yeah, that's helpful as well. And it worked last year for the Eagles. I think the more important part is the talent, Alabama, Georgia, but it helps to have that comfort level with somebody.
SEC guys coming to town, not usually a bad thing, a good thing. And this year it's Georgia guys. Last year it was Alabama guys. Let me ask you about Nakobe Dean because we know he was drafted in the 3rd round. Shoot, I said right here on Birds 365 way back when. What was it, about a month ago? When the Eagles had all 3 of their draft picks before they did the deal with the Saints, that I wanted to see them use one of them on Nakobe Dean. I thought he was that good a player that, all right, you fill your couple of needs. You're still at 19. You can break that all the way back to Jerry Robinson's scheme of never picking a linebacker in the 1st round, which, oh, by the way, he had another year because Nakobe Dean was not picked in the 1st round. He was not picked in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
He was picked in the 3rd round. Now I'm projecting and predicting he goes out and plays like a 1st rounder. He's far and away going to be the most productive Philadelphia Eagle rookie in his 1st year, is he not?
I guess that depends on definition. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like Georgia.
I'd start with number of snaps played.
No, I don't. Well, as we always do, we have to put on the caveat of injuries. But I don't think he's going to come in and start right away.
You don't.
I don't. One for potentially for health reasons. Plus, the Eagles have pretty good linebackers for the first time in the history of the world, I think. Not obviously, we talked about Jerry Robinson. I'm exaggerating. He was a Pro Bowl player, but it's been a while since they've had great linebackers. Bill Berge, Seth Joyner, the most obvious ones. But recent history, they haven't done a lot at that particular position. And if they didn't draft Nakobe Dean, let's say they drafted Cam Jurgens and he won 52 because the Eagles wanted both. They were right there. They were juggling between both. And he wasn't here. I would still say the Eagles are better at linebacker than they have been over the past 5-6 years. TJ Edwards is a player I like personally, probably a little bit more than most people. And then Kaiser White, I think, is sort of the modern NFL linebacker. Was a safety rover type player in college at West Virginia, very athletic, very fast, very coverage oriented. And I would have been fine with that. And I do think there's going to be, I don't know if there's going to be a red shirt, but I brought this up when the Eagles drafted Nakobe and how he's said he's going to be out there. He's going to be out there. And that means today. And I do expect him to be out there. But he left that open. We'll do a double check. He left that open as far as the medical stuff. And again, I've said pretty consistently, I don't care about the pec. I don't care. If he has surgery, if he comes in, that recheck says, yeah, you probably should have surgery. And he's out for 6 or 8 months. I don't even care. It's not an injury that's going to affect him long term, but it is going to affect his ability to play early this season. So you put that on top of that potential, on top of the fact that he's got to beat out Kaiser White. And he might, but I don't think he will early in his career. Now, if we're talking 2023, yeah, I think he's going to be on the field, and I'm fine with that.
You think he's going to not be competing with Edwards? I like Edwards, and Edwards had a really good year. Shoot, I was the guy here on Birds 365 who 2 weeks before they gave him the extension said, shouldn't they be talking about an extension? Doesn't he fit the Howie Roseman mode of when to extend a guy with what kind of production you're getting? So I kind of feel bad that TJ Edwards could get squeezed out, but that's the guy who's spot on the field he's going to be taking, is it not?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, one of the things with Nakobe, one of the reasons why I didn't think he'd go in the first round, even if he's healthy, his size, and 5'11", 225-pound middle linebacker. That's kind of small. You got to have somebody defending the run. I always say, it's May, Jody. I always say we're in May, so we got to change it. Nobody cares about the running game yet, and they won't for a while. But you need somebody out there to run support. We could talk about this Eagles team. Kaiser White, Hassan Reddick, all these undersized pieces, which are very athletic, and that part of it's great. But again, December football, outdoors, bad weather, which doesn't happen very often. I don't want to overstate it, but you got to have somebody. Now, Jordan Davis is going to be a big part of that as well, obviously, right smack dab in the middle. He's going to be the biggest part of it, the potential improvement. But he strikes me as a will linebacker, and that's Kaiser White's role. But we'll see.
He smacks me as a middle linebacker. And yes, is he slightly undersized for quote unquote today's middle linebacker in the NFL? A little bit. An inch or two, 10 pounds. I really don't think that's that big a deal. And as far as his injuries go, this is now starting to officially annoy me. Did he not play the entire national championship game? Did he not play straight through the end of Georgia's season? Was he not on the field when they beat Alabama to win the championship? Was he hurt? Was he standing on the sidelines? I don't remember any of that. Did any of that go down, John?
Well, I mean, if you want to play devil's advocate, Jody, I mean, it's wonderful that you play through aches and pains, but that doesn't mean the aches and pains don't exist. Um, you know, I'd rather have a guy play
Aches and
through it.
pains, aches and pains as per who? Him or someone else?
Well, I mean, there are, and Howie Roseman admitted, look, teams were concerned about his medical. These are doctors. I'm not a doctor. I mean, these are doctors who are telling their organizations that, maybe, certainly you don't want to take him here. Maybe there could be some degenerative stuff. There could be some concern. Mike K brought somebody up yesterday, Miles Jack, who I don't know if you remember when Miles was coming out of UCLA, he had a lot of hype. Potential top 10 pick, one of the best players. A lot of people called him the best pure football player in the draft, like we called Kyle Hamilton this year. A lot of hype. And he ended up going early in the second round because of a degenerative knee condition. So, I mean, those things, and he's played a long time. I'm not saying it's a death sentence, but and Howie said, look, I mean, yes, when he was pressed, he said, yes, other teams thought there were issues. So are the Eagles right? Hopefully. Are the other teams wrong? Hopefully. But I think to ignore it is probably not a good.
Let me ask you a question here. Other teams thought there were issues. When the draft was over and done with and Nakobe Dean became a Philadelphia Eagle, did Howie pick up the phone and touch base with all other teams around the National Football League and go, hey, we just took Nakobe Dean. Why wouldn't you guys draft him earlier? How is he determining that other teams had these medical questions about him, or is he just speculating?
Well, he talks to teams all the time. I think he's got a good beat on what other teams thinking. He doesn't want to admit that that's an issue, that was an issue. But he did. I think that tells you something. He did leave it open-ended. And I told you the day after, I said, read the transcript. And he said, we'll do a recheck. He did leave the door slightly ajar. I don't look, Jody, I know you like the player, but I do think it's we'd be lying to the listeners if we said there weren't other teams that had medical questions about Nakobe Dean. And to say Howie Roseman, of all people, is speculating, I think is wrong. He knows what other teams think. He's not just, I mean, why would he say that if there wasn't concerns? And by the way, why would the kid drop into the third round if there wasn't concerns?
John, I'm not suggesting that other teams didn't have medical questions about him. I'm saying I don't know that Howie Roseman knew. I think he's trying to put two and two together and come up with four that they had him ranked. As you just said, Howie Roseman said one thing you can't debate is he said this for fact, not for maybe. They thought about taking him in the second round, in the 50s, rather than in the 80s. Either he's lying or you believe him, and I believe him on that one. So he ended up going in the 80s. So there has to be a reason for that. So Howie is, in my estimation, speculating that other teams had medical questions about him. So did the Eagles. At one point, when they got on the board in the third round, they said, all right, you put it on the scale. Questions versus value. When value out tips questions, then you pull the name on the player and you select them. So
well,
Howie,
and I think
I'm doubting he got a general manager on the phone 2 days after the draft and said, why the hell you didn't take Nakobe Dean? Oh, let me send you our medicals on him. I don't believe that happened.
And by the way, he also said that he thought people were going to start thinking about taking him. So that's one of the reasons they took him where they took him. Yeah, if you're going to ask me, Jody, which is the truth? The Eagles had 51. Cam Jurgens was 1A, and Nakobe Dean was 1B. Versus other teams had medical questions on Nakobe Dean. If you're going to ask me which one was Howie telling the truth on, I'm going to say the second one more than the first one. More than, we magically got, I'm surprised Grant Calcaterra wasn't 53 on the board and Kyron Johnson wasn't 52. We got everybody we wanted. That's something you always hear from NFL general managers. That's general managers speak. There were concerns, and there are other reporters who are, and especially in New York, because Joe Shane is the one who at least probably went a little bit farther than he should have. I mean, I don't know I can't make you believe it, but there were concerns by other teams. And all we can do at this point is hope the Eagles are correct and hope the other teams are wrong. But that happens all the time. Happened with DJ Metcalf. The Eagles were wrong. Seattle was correct. Seattle went with the direction. It happens all the time. But when you see players like that talent drop, it's nearly always medical related. We saw it last year with JOK in Cleveland. He's one of the best players in the draft. We're like, what the hell's going on? Why isn't this kid going? He ends up in the second round. By the way, he ends up as one of the best players in the draft, at least early in his career after his rookie season. This kind of stuff happens all the time, Jody.
I
don't know.
I understand. The other question about him was size, and you've already brought that up here today. You don't know that he can be a middle linebacker in the league because he's only 5'11" and he's only 228 pounds, whatever his weight is. I'll look at the player. I'm not going to get caught up in size and an inch and a half and 14 pounds. That's what the prototypic average linebacker is in the NFL. I think this kid's got skills that negate the undersized aspect of his body. And who's to say? I don't think he's going to be growing much at age 21, but who's to say he can't put on 10 more pounds of muscle now that he's in the National Football League?
Well, I've compared him to a guy I used to cover named Ed McDaniel, who was 5'11", was a great linebacker for a long time. And people don't, it's not a name that people are going unless they remember Wahoo McDaniel. His name was also Ed. But I digress. But I'm not saying he can't be a great player. And actually, it's probably better for him to be a middle linebacker, say that, because I think ultimately he's got to be a two-down player, which is a middle linebacker, not the coverage linebacker. That'd probably be better for him, but I think the Eagles are going to start him out on the weak side. That's my assumption. I could be completely wrong. They also have Davion Taylor, so that makes into it as well. I think if he gets on the field, and we got to get to Martin Frank, I'm getting too wordy. If he gets on the field, it will be for Kaiser White. I don't think it'll be for TJ Edwards, but hey, I like TJ Edwards, so maybe that's my bias.
I like TJ Edwards too, but I think the best position for Nakobe Dean, and I think he's going to be that good that he's going to command to be in his best position, is in the middle. John McMullen, Jordan McDonald, Mac and Mac. Guys, we will bring a third amigo into the mix. Martin Frank joins us next here on Birds 365.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
It's a big story, and that can
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. The glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rim...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
John McMullen and Jody McDonald, the Mac Birds 365 guys here on the JAKIB YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Not because of John McMullen, not because of Jody McDonald, because of Martin Frank, who joins us here on Birds 365. Hello, Martin. How's your off season going?
It's going better than the Phillies after last night.
Oh, that was a nice one. Did you do the Phillies last night, Martin?
I did not, but I saw the collapse in real time as it happened.
Wow, that's a good one. What was that? A 7-run collapse?
The scary thing is they're up 7-1. I flipped over to the stupid hockey game, and I turned back over. I go, "What? The 7-5? What the hell?"
Yeah, you were better off watching the hockey game.
That's an all-timer. That's a potential. Is Joe Girardi going to be here in June? That's
a really good question. Why not be?
And Doc Rivers might not be here either. But we got to get some positivity, and that's your Philadelphia Eagles, Martin Frank. They're going to get on the field. Well, maybe not, but they're going to be in the bubble. They're going to be somewhere today. Rookie camp. How fired up are you?
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, we know Nick Sirianni will be here in June anyway, so
that's true. That's true.
Eagles got that going for themselves. And
he is the most entrenched coach in town. Can we say that? He is the most entrenched coach.
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
The Flyers don't have a coach.
Well, you could argue Jay Wright, but
both got hot seats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, Martin, jump into the little tete-a-tete John and I were just having. Nakobe Dean, will he be starting for the Philadelphia Eagles come week 1? And if so, at what linebacker position do you think that's going to be?
If he's healthy, yeah, I think he definitely will be starting, and I think it'll be in place of TJ Edwards. He'll be alongside Kaiser White.
All right, gang up on me, Mark. All right.
Sorry, bro.
That's fair.
I mean, that's a big if he's healthy. I mean, I think the Eagles kind of took him there with the idea that, you know what, if this guy's not ready to play week 1, if he ends up needing, that surgery or whatever, then, if this ends up being a redshirt year, then, Kaiser White's only on a 1-year deal. Next year, he'll be ready to go. He should be as good as new if it's not this year.
Yeah, and I think that's a positive part, even if there is an issue with the pack. That doesn't concern me. You just redshirt him. That's what the Eagles kind of planned to do last year with Landon Dickerson. And he was forced in the lineup. He ended up being fine. And hopefully that's going to work out long-term as well. So the Eagles have seen both sides of this sort of injury tete-a-tete. Right. Sidney Jones, it didn't work with. It is interesting the value of getting a player like that in the 3rd round, who most had late 1st round, early 2nd round grade. As a whole, how much does that Nakobe Dean pick sort of raise up Martin Frank's grade for the Eagles in the draft?
I think at the time I was kind of like, what are they doing? This guy's hurt. He's going to need surgery and everything like that, especially because they didn't address cornerback or safety. Well, actually, as it turned out at all in the draft. But the more I thought about it, like, if you're in the third round and you're looking for a starting cornerback or starting safety, you're probably not going to get one, especially with the ones who already went. So why not take a chance on a guy like Nakobe Dean, who was, many people thought would be a first round pick, late first round, like you said, early second round, even like in the weeks up to the draft. So, I mean, this guy is really good. I mean, he played on a great team at Georgia. He was probably the leader of that defense. I mean, you heard Jordan Davis say that pretty much. Here's a guy who can make a difference if he's healthy. And if he can't play for this first year, you at least address the issue with Kaiser White. So, you end up with a guy who probably could be a first round pick on your team. And you're looking, if it doesn't work out this year, then definitely next year you got a starting, linebacker and everything like that. And that's what you want.
Think Howie's going to try to say this was really a first round pick so he can stop with the Jerry Robinson stuff?
I'm surprised he hasn't already, that was like, hey, we got a first round pick in the third round, that's usually
if he produces like he can potentially produce, it will eventually come to that. Howie will say, and we got a first round linebacker in the third round. Oh yeah, he's gonna go there. He hasn't yet. You got to get him on the field first, then get him producing and playing like a first round pick. But Howie will double back and say just that.
Yeah, he did that. He did that with Landon Dickerson. I mean, he was a guy who was supposed to go in the first round too, and he had all those injuries. And the Eagles took a chance on him, and it worked out for them. I mean, he started pretty early in the season and pretty much is entrenched at left guard. So, yeah.
Here's another reason why I think the most important reason why I think he's a middle linebacker for the Eagles is he's a middle linebacker. And I think they'll keep him at the position that he played at Georgia. And yes, as you move up, even though he's not the quote unquote perfect size middle linebacker, I think he overcomes that with talent and heart and desire. Another reason why I think they keep him there is this team is lacking a defensive leader. You went from Malcolm Jenkins to Rodney McLeod as your defensive leaders at the safety position. Are you ready to go there, Martin Frank? Epsy as the defensive leader of the Philadelphia Eagles. Somebody's got to take charge in that huddle, and I know it's difficult for a rookie to do. It's usually a linebacker or a safety. Will it be Epsy this year for the Eagles? That John likes to tell me he's the best safety that they have on the team right now. He's probably right, by the way. But is he also ready to be the defensive leader of this team?
Epsy, I'm not so sure about. They have Anthony Harris. I mean, he's a guy, who knows the system's been around. He knows Jonathan Gannon's system as well as anybody. So he might be the leader of the defense in that regard.
Leaders tend to perform, though, Martin. Leaders need to perform.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that Anthony, not that Anthony Harris has, he's been a Pro Bowl player in the past. People didn't see it in Philadelphia, but I do think he's a descending player. So when you look at the secondary as a whole, and we talked about cornerback a lot as well, and the Eagles keep with this narrative of Zach McPherson and Tate Gowan and Kerry Vincent, and they'd be comfortable with that. We heard the same thing last year when the Eagles drafted Zach McPherson in the fourth round. All offseason, Martin, it was like, well, yeah, we think Zach can play. And all of a sudden, here's Steve Nelson 2 days before camp. First play in team drills, Steve Nelson, starting corner, never left it the entire season. Great durability as well. They weren't able to bring him back. He got 2 years in Houston. How big is two open spots in the secondary, if you want to consider one safety, one cornerback spot?
It's pretty big. I mean, it's obviously really big. I mean, I think the starting cornerback for the Eagles still isn't on the team yet. The Giants are expected to release James Bradbury. I'd be surprised if the Eagles don't make a serious run at him. So, it's just a question of how much they're able and willing to pay for a guy like that. I can't see them going into the season with, the combination of McPherson, Tay Gowan and Kerry Vincent and whoever else they want to try out there, you know, maybe one of the undrafted free agent guys they signed as the starter opposite Darius Slay. I mean, imagine if you're an opposing team and you see that, you're like, all right, well, Darius Slay can take the day off. We're just attacking the other side like nonstop. I mean, you need somebody in there who can, you know, who's proven, who can make a play and everything. And when you look at Steven Nelson last year, they signed him like maybe 2 or 3 days before training camp started. And maybe that's the case this year. I mean, they'll find somebody. If it's not Bradbury, then, you know, there's bound to be somebody out there that they can go after and sign with starting experience. So I'm pretty confident that the Eagles' other starting cornerback is not yet on the roster.
Oh, no Zach McPherson love, Jody.
Yeah, Zach Mac's got to earn it. We love the name. We haven't decided yet whether we love the player. All right, Martin, let's assume, and it would be hard not to assume, that the Eagles have an improved pass rush this year. And the easiest way to designate that is they get more sacks. Seeing as they were 31st out of 32 teams in the NFL, there's only one direction to go, but up. But we can watch a film, watch a tape, and we can say, hey, they're putting more pressure on the quarterback. They're getting hands in his face, getting hits on the quarterback. A lot of different ways you can statistically come to the conclusion that you've got an improved pass rush. Let's say that's improved first 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, quarter of the way into the season. Will that affect the way Jonathan Gannon plays his defensive backs? Will they do it differently? Last year, kind of like Jim Schwartz, they allowed as much underneath stuff as you wanted. That's why quarterbacks were regularly completing 80% of their passes against the Eagles, because they didn't get up and play a lot of press coverage. If the defense is improved at getting to the quarterback, what kind of effect is it going to have on the guys outside covering the wide receivers?
Oh, it'll have a huge effect. I mean, you know, and they did improve the pass rush. I mean, getting a guy like Hassan Reddick, he's got like 23 and a half sacks in the last 2 years. You know, he's playing kind of like the, you know, the rush linebacker spot. So you still have like Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat, you know, as defensive end. Plus you have Reddick. So, I mean, they're going to get more pressure on the quarterback. Plus you have the 2 guys up the middle, whether it's Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, and then with, you know, both Jordan Davis and Milton Williams. I mean, you've got as strong a rotation at defensive tackle as probably anybody in the league right now. So, you know, if Brandon Graham is fully healed, fully recovered and back to the way he was, like he says he is, then, you know, you're already improved, because he only played like 2 games last year before he suffered the Achilles. You know, Derek Barnett is Derek Barnett. You might get a few sacks here and there, and he's probably going to get a ton of penalties. But you also got Josh Sweat, who's an ascending player.
I love the shot at Derek, by the way, Mark.
You got, yeah, well, he had more penalties than sacks last year.
Yes, he did. Not even close.
Yeah, exactly. Not even close. And you got, you know, Josh Sweat is a really good defensive end. I mean, I think, you know, he can get double-digit sacks. I mean, I think he had 7.5 last year and everything. So, you know, there's plenty of opportunity for those guys to have a better. I mean, they should definitely be much improved from what they were last year and stuff. And, you know, the less time the quarterback has to throw, the less time he can find an open receiver. I mean, that's just, you know, that's just basically common sense and everything like that. So, yeah, it'll definitely help the defensive backs if they're getting more pressure on the quarterback.
All right, Martin, let's get to the main event, and that's the offensive side of the football. That's the quarterback. That's Jalen Hurts. You wrote about this on your latest at Delaware Online, or one of your latest, DelawareOnline.com. Jalen Hurts, you know, sort of saying it's my team, getting a little curt, by the way. I like when people use the word curt. I think Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction. If I'm curt, I apologize, but so well done there. I do, because I'm the one who asked that question about the follow-up about the off-season workout. So he kind of said it, he went out to Southern California on his own. Do you believe that, or do you believe Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson and Shane Steichen got together and said, look, you got to start working on your mechanics a little bit more. And Tom House and Adam Daydew are the best at this. And by the way, if they didn't say that, is that a problem? In other words, shouldn't they have a defined plan for Jalen Hurts in the offseason?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there's only so much they can tell a player, like any player, during the offseason. They're really not allowed to have any kind of contact with them. But they could tell Jalen, like at the end of the season, okay, we need you to improve on this. We need you to improve on this. We need you to improve on this. Here are some coaches who can help you do that. But they can't make them go to.
Well, that's what I meant. More of a suggestion, Yeah. Shouldn't you have a strong suggestion, I should say.
Yeah. And I'm sure, Jalen Hurts is a smart guy too. I mean, he knows what he needed to do better. I mean, he's very conscientious and diligent and everything. So like, if there's somebody who can help him get better and he thinks that might be better than maybe someone the Eagles suggested, I mean, he's going to go to that person. I mean, I'm not sure that's how it all transpired or anything like that. But, Jalen Hurts, I mean, you can tell that he's a guy who is going to do whatever it takes to get better. So, he's probably got some ideas on his own as well as who to go see and everything like that. But yeah, I'm sure he's not against the suggestion to go try, working out with Tom House in California and everything and see where that leads. And, whatever it takes. I mean, I think that's what he's going to do in order to be a better quarterback than he was last year. So,
all right, Martin, I'm going to stay on the offensive side, jump into the trenches with a hypothetical question for you. Week 2 of the season, Landon Dickerson comes up lame.
Don't say that, Jody.
Turns an ankle. Nothing major, nothing career-threatening or anything like that, but a significant injury where he's going to be out a minimum of a month. Who's replacing him at left guard?
That's a good question because you got
I know who's not. Nate Herbig.
That's true.
It's not Nate Herbig.
Nate,
you're assuming
staying green.
Yeah.
He's staying green, though.
Jet.
Got that jet green going. Yeah. Joe Douglas said, thank you very much. I'll take Nate Herbig.
Right. You're assuming then that Isaac Seumalo is starting on the right side. You could always move him back to the left side. I mean, he's played there for the first 4 or 5 years of his career and everything. And then you put in Jack Driscoll or the new guy, Cam Jurgens. He could play guard. Maybe he's stronger on the left side than the right side. I mean, they drafted this guy in the second round, and Howie made it pretty clear he's not just a center. He can also play guard, even though he never did in college. But, you got 2 guys, 3 if you want to include Sua Opeta, who's played some, last year. I mean,
how's Tesla stock doing today? The stock market's not doing well. How is Tesla doing?
And then there's Brett Toth. They moved him inside too. So, I mean, they got options. It's just a question of where they decide to put Seumalo. Like if they want to keep him on the right side, then maybe one of those other guys can play on the left side. But, you got some pretty good options. It's still a pretty deep offensive line, even if, a guy like Landon Dickerson were to go down and stuff. So I think they'd be all right if he had to miss like a few weeks or even a month, like you said. They got options. Nate Herbig wasn't the deal breaker here.
They do have crazy depth on the offensive line. And that's the reason Nate's not here. Let's be honest. He made a little bit too much money to be a third string player. And the Jets are like, yeah, we'll pay that. We'll pay that for the guy who started, I think, 17 games. So good guy, too. Good luck to Nate Herbig. For Jody's Jets, I think he'll do a solid job there. Yeah. So let's talk receivers now, Martin. Let's go, since we're on the offensive side of the football. I think on paper, this looks great. I set up a bit of a firestorm on my own Twitter. I said, to me, this is the most talented tandem the Eagles have ever had at wide receiver, ever.
I saw that.
I got a lot of pushback, people bringing up Harold Carmichael and Mike Quick. Well, Harold was in his 12th season when Mike Quick got here. I mean, he wasn't the Hall of Fame Harold Carmichael. Devontae's 23. AJ's 24. And they are getting together at this point of their career. I think the better argument probably be Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin.
Right.
But I think these two are more talented than those two. Am I crazy? Now, people took it as best. They've never played a game. I'm not saying they're the best. They have to prove it.
Right.
But they're the most talented. Am I nuts?
Well, the only thing I would say about Deshaun and Jeremy Maclin is they never really played together that much. Deshaun came in 08 and Maclin in 09. And I want to say like their best years, the one year Deshaun was great in 2013, Maclin was out with a torn ACL.
Yeah, Macklin's big year, it was Jordan Matthews who
and Chip Kelly got rid of Deshaun, and then Maclin came back and had his great year. So they never really had they had good years. I mean, Maclin took a couple years before he became the great receiver or the really good receiver that he was. And Deshaun, I think, had injuries too at times. Like he never really had 1,000 yards receiving until that 2013 breakout season, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe he did. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I think like the two guys they have now have definitely as much, if not more, potential than Deshaun and Maclin. If those two had played together in their prime, I think both could have had 1,000 yards receiving together. And I think that's definitely the expectation for Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I mean, A.J. Brown's already done it twice. Devontae, as a rookie, had 916 yards receiving, with quarterback who was still kind of finding his way and they didn't really have anybody else. So the other team knew all they had to do was shut down Devontae Smith and maybe Dallas Goedert, and they could do that. Obviously, now you can't really do that as much. I mean, if you focus all your attention on Devontae Smith, well, you got a guy on the other side in A.J. Brown who's just going to go crazy, and vice versa. I mean, if you focus on trying to stop A.J. Brown, then you're opening up room for Devontae Smith. So I think they're both going to feed off each other. I don't see why either one. I mean, I don't see why both can't have 1,000 yards receiving. I mean,
and by the way, Martin, you said 2 years. Yeah, he didn't have 1,000 yards last year, but he would have. He missed, 5 games, whatever it was, due to injury. He was on pace for it. So it was injury related. This group, and I'll follow up with this. Who's wide receiver one in your mind? Is it AJ or is it Devontae?
I think they're both wide receiver one. It's like 1 and 1A.
On that bench. Somebody's got to get it. You hear when you go back to Doug Peterson, you've heard this, Martin. Doug said, I game plan for 17 and 86, which was Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz. Nick, last year, it was 6 and 88. It was Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. You always got those two guys. So 88, I think, is going to be one of those guys. So if I'm forcing you to pick one, and I'm forcing you, who was Nick Sirianni gaming for? Is it 11 and 88 or is it 6 and 88?
I'm going to go with 11 and 88, and I think 6 is going to be the beneficiary.
All right, I like it. I like it.
I think it's going to be 6 and 11, and Dallas will be third, but difference
That's possible,
of opinion.
yeah.
And by the way, I'm going with Irving Fryer and Christy Jones as the best Eagle pairing.
Christy Jones.
Christy Jones. Quick question. How many yards do you think they combined for in 16 games, not 17 games?
Well, obviously a lot, but I can't. Come on, Christy Jones.
Over 2,000. We're going to see if the two Eagle wide receivers come.
I think the record is Jeremy Maclin and Jordan Matthews of all people, but I could be wrong.
What about T.O. and I know T.O. had 1,400 yards or 1,200 yards or something like that. Wasn't there another guy, Todd Pinkston, maybe?
Pinky. Do the Pinky dance.
500 or 600 yards.
But my point is not about stats. It's about talent. And look, Christy Jones, nice season. Well done. You're not Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown. That's my point. I'm not talking they're going to be the most productive. You need a quarterback. Quarterback factors into that as well. How much are you going to throw the ball? All that factors into that number. I think this tandem, I'm very comfortable saying this, I'll say it again, is the most talented tandem in Eagles history. And they haven't had a lot of great tandems as compared to some other teams at wide receiver.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe assumption based on, their history and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, now you got to prove it. The Eagles are expected to be a lot better offensively, and that's supposed to make Jalen Hurts a better quarterback. So, let's see.
If my choice is the most talented duo ever or the most productive duo ever, I got to fall down on the most productive duo. Talent is nice, but then you got to go out and do it on the field, and we'll see if these two guys do it. I think they will be. I think John's right. I think talent will equate to production, and I think they'll set that record for most passing yards by two Eagle receivers in the season.
And I think
if they both stay healthy.
Yeah, and I think this is obviously a referendum on Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. I mean, if you can't have a good season with the receivers that you have, whether it's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, whatever order you want to put them in. I mean, if the Eagles can't, muster a good offense with those three guys, then it's definitely on the quarterback at this point, right? I mean, after this year, if Jalen Hurts is your quarterback, you either, and if he's not, then you got to get one next year. I mean, it's as plain and simple.
Martin Frank, the great NFL Eagles writer for the Delaware News Journal. You could read him there, DelawareOnline.com @MFrankNFL. Martin, last one for you. I know you're going to be a world traveler, so you got your passport in order. You're going to Italy. You're a little upset. You're not going to get a stamp from Mexico City later in the year. No Eagles in Mexico City.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. I mean, if you're going to bring a new fan base to a, foreign country, I mean, what better fan base to bring there than the Eagles? I mean, yeah, I know the 49ers and Cardinals are a good matchup and everything like that, but who wouldn't want to see Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray? I guess they were never really teammates at Oklahoma, but they both went there and everything. And I don't know, it just seemed like Eagles fans in Mexico City, that would have been a nice thing. And I already have my passport,
International incident. That's why.
Yeah. I was a little surprised. I thought for sure that was going to happen, but going to Arizona is not bad either. I mean,
that's true.
There are worse places.
I would argue better, but that's me because I got to do the paperwork.
I got a two-parter for you, Martin, to wrap it up. Number one is a follow-up of John's. Have you already laid out your running routes in Mexico if you're going abroad? Have you gone on
to Italy? He doesn't have to go.
Yeah. What did I say?
Mexico.
Not going to Mexico. Excuse me. Going to Italy. Have you laid out your Google Earth searches to find out exactly where you're going to be able to get your running in?
Haven't done that yet, but maybe I will over the
It's a good idea. You can get everything on Google Earth now.
Yeah, you find exactly what's the best running route. All right, and this one is just to put a little bit of Eagle off season in perspective as we sit here. Let's see, we got 128 days until the first Sunday of the season. Still a lot can happen, a lot of change, injuries, additions, subtractions. But as we sit here today on May 6th, who's the favorite to win the NFC East?
I think the Eagles could be. I think it's going to be the Eagles and the Cowboys. Pretty much going right down to the wire. I don't think the Cowboys are as strong as they've been the last couple of years after losing Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson. Ezekiel Elliott's 1 year older. I know Tony Pollard's obviously a good back and everything. But, I like what the Eagles did in the draft. And if everything works out, if Nakobe Dean is playing and starting, having a good year, the offense is much better. Jalen Hurts theoretically should be much better. So I think the Eagles can make a run for it. If they end up 11-6, I think that could be good enough to win the division. I think, I think they could be a favorite to win the division. I don't see any dominant team in the NFC East right now. So, it just depends on how it all unfolds and everything like that. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eagles as the NFC East champion this year.
Martin, great stuff. We always appreciate it when you come on. May your European running go well. Don't get hurt on it. We need you in one piece to come
I
back.
meant to ask to see the Broad Street medal too. The Broad Street run.
Oh yeah, I got that in a drawer somewhere. It's a
right into the drawer.
Yeah.
There's a runner for you. Who needs medals? Just get back out there and get the endorphins pumping. Martin, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on. Always, bud. Thanks much.
All right. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
Our
Thanks,
pleasure.
Martin.
That's Martin Frank of the Delco Times here with us. I'm Birds 365. He is a running fool, isn't he, John?
Oh, yeah.
He's dedicated to that stuff. I can't drive as far as Martin Frank can.
Oh, no, none of it. Yeah, Martin can go, man. And he's coming back off injury, too. And then he covered the draft. Those are grinds those days. And then, we got out of there late on Saturday night, and he's back at the Broad Street Run, I think, at 5:30 in the morning. He's a monster when it comes to that stuff.
He's a gamer like Nakobe Dean. Don't listen to these stupid other teams.
Well, Martin's got medicals too, and he
plays. He plays. So does Martin Frank.
Yeah,
who cares what the medical says?
I read.
Tell me what happened. Don't tell me what you think's going to happen. Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
All he
I red flagged him, Jody, and he finished anyway. Positive.
He runs right through it. Martin Frank here with us on Birds 365. All right, coming back, Mac. We're going to have a guest in the second hour we've never had on before. Victor Williams from Fox Sports The Gambler is going to hop aboard. That kind of my last question led to one of the things we're going to ask Victor. Who's going to be the favorite in the NFC East? It is going to be the Cowboys, but it might be closer than some people may expect between Philadelphia and Dallas. A lot of things yet to cover. Hour to go here on Birds 365.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
With John McMullen, I'm Jody McDonald. That means you got your Mac Birds 365 guys here today on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Punch that like button for us. We could use a little help with our algorithm, or so I'm told. Like, share, and subscribe here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Hi, Johnny Mac. We started the show talking about the gathering of rookies that they will have in South Philadelphia today. Some drills will be run. Nothing overt or too football related. It has to be somewhat football, but not team drills because A, they don't have enough guys, and B, it's against the rules. They're not allowed to do it, but they will gather together. And this is year 2 of Nick Sirianni's era as the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. How much difference is there between year 1 and year 2 for a coach?
I think a lot. I mean, coaches always say the biggest jump you see in players is between year 1 and year 2. This goes back to where we started the show about, some of those uncomfortable, natural human things more than football things that you have to go through as a rookie. Same thing with rookie head coaches. You can talk about being a coordinator, or this is the best way to be a head coach is being an offensive coordinator and call plays and all that stuff. Or, people have other ideas. It's about leadership, and it can be on either side of the ball, even in an offensive tilted era. But you got to learn on the job when you're a first-time head coach, especially. Now, you get a second chance. It's probably a little bit easier, but every single coach I've ever talked to, Jody, and I mean every single one, when I asked them the question about what surprised you most about this particular job, and I mean 100%, 100% is like, they always say how much non-football stuff I got to deal with, how much logistical stuff, whether it could be something as simple as schedules, like today. Like, what are they going to do in their 90 minutes on the field? How are you going to structure that? From everything down to training camp, and we talk about all the time, like who's making the decisions. I always say I've never met the football coach that doesn't want to practice more. Nick Sirianni's got to deal with medical people, sports science people, and put all of this into a plan, along with 90 players, by the way. A lot of those players today are going to be, a little overwhelmed, to be honest. And you got to get them up to speed. I always say with Howie, I say with head coaches as well, it's a very big job that people don't realize. They think it's about, a lot of people think it's about play calling and just being there on game day, and you got to make the right decision on 4th down. Man, the other stuff that you don't see the whole week getting up to that point is the difficult part. That's the easy part for the coaches. That's the enjoyable part for the coaches when they get to the game. Same as the players. So, yeah, I mean, year 1 to year 2 was huge. At this time last year, Nick Sirianni just got there. We were all talking about the opening press conference, and he looked overwhelmed, to be honest. And then you start to calm down and you start to feel yourself a little bit, but you're still relying on the people that were here, right? He's relying on Howie Roseman to set things up, some of the names of assistant coaches, for instance. He didn't have a guy for quarterback coach. He had his guys. He had Shane Steichen and Kevin Patullo and Jonathan Gann and certain people. But, Howie got him a bunch of names, and they came up with Brian Johnson. All of that is sort of this all-encompassing stuff you have to do. You have to rely on other people. Certainly Jeff Stoutland you relied on for a guy who's been here for a long time. Now he's more comfortable, and there should be a significant improvement from year one to year two.
You mentioned Jonathan Gannon as one of his guys. Was he really one of Nick's guys, or was he one of Howie guys?
Well, the Eagles were going to hire him, no matter if they hired Josh McDaniels or Nick Sirianni. But Nick didn't have a problem. I mean, Nick worked with him in Indianapolis. Nick knew him. Nick was very close to him as well. But no, I think a lot of people don't realize, like, Josh McDaniels and Jonathan Gannon are really, really close. Just, they come from the same area. They have a lot of the same contacts over the years. And, the Eagles wanted to hire Jonathan Gannon before they knew who their head coach was going to be as the defensive coordinator. So the plan was that he was going to be here no matter who the head coach was going to be. But it did happen to be that the head coach was very familiar and very comfortable with Jonathan Gannon.
Right. That's why I asked, because I knew that the Eagles had as much interest as they did in Gannon. And I'll tie a couple of things that you said together on how the jump from year one to year two can be as big as it is, and how all-encompassing the job of the head coach of a National Football League team is. I'm with you. I don't think people realize how much is on your plate when you're the head coach of a National Football League team. And I'll tell you one of the hardest things. It's a little apples and oranges, but when my father was a general manager for 3 different teams on a Major League Baseball level, he told me one of the toughest things he had to do was scout his scouts. Now, a head football coach in the NFL, the guys working directly underneath them are his coaches, the guys who are on his staff. And you correctly pointed out that Nick Sirianni had a lot of say in who was on his staff. Doug Peterson, not so much. And some of it was Doug's doing, that he said, all right, yeah, whatever you want. Throw the staff together, Howie. I'll be okay with it. You got guys you want to keep from Chip's staff? Okay, yeah, I'll work with those guys. Doug was just happy to get the job, that he'd figure it out as he went along. But they seemed to give Sirianni a lot more input in putting his staff together, which is both a good thing and a tough thing. Because if you know the guys ahead of time, you work with them ahead of time, and then they come in and the job's the job, and it isn't exactly working out the way that you had envisioned it working out, you got to be able to evaluate those guys that are working underneath you. And some of them become your friends. And your job as a head coach is to evaluate those guys. It might have actually gotten Doug Peterson fired because he evaluated them and he thought they were still really good. And the 2 guys he reported to thought, no, we're not advancing them. If anything, we're going to move on from them. So it is really a fine line you have to walk. And my father said it's the toughest thing because they're all different. He had at one point 30, 35 scouts that worked underneath them. He said, I know the scouts who are tough graders, and I know the scouts who are easy graders. And I read 2 separate reports on one player, and one makes him sound like Babe Ruth, and the other one makes him sound like he's never going to spend a day in the major leagues as a minor leaguer. And they're both guys that are working for him, looking at the same exact player. But they do things differently. They write their reports differently, and so the coaches that are working underneath you may do their jobs completely different. You got to be able to bring it all together. You got to be the guy who takes all that information in, get guys to do certain things you want uniform across the board. This is the way the Philadelphia Eagles do things. It's a lot harder than people make it out to be. Or even, I think, even understand what you're asking of a guy to be able to keep. He's got to keep the plays. He's got to call the plays. He's got to deal with the general manager. He's got to deal with the owner. And on top of it, he's got to deal with his staff. Everybody thinks because they're all in the same room and they had some hiring. What happens when your guy's not doing a job?
Yeah.
You were the guy who went in and fought for the guy to get the job, and then the job isn't being done as well as you want. That's harsh. And coaches just want to coach. They don't want to be disciplinarians, the guys that they reached out and hired. It's a really tough aspect of the job.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, that's why Doug's not here anymore. Bottom line. And the Eagles thought he didn't manage his coaching staff well. And, I mean, it's one of those things, unfortunately. We're seeing it with the front office now. And, we don't know if Andy Weidl's going to get the job in Pittsburgh. or not, they've started doing their second round of interviews. And I know the first two names weren't Andy Weidel. So he might be back, and his brother's not going to be back. So, I mean, you can imagine that. You involve family into it as well, different department, obviously. But with the coaching staff, yeah, I mean, I always look at Carson Walsh because he had such a, and it's not fair. I mean, I can't grade Carson Walsh as an assistant coach. I know damn well that Jeffrey Lurie can't grade him. Now, there is some, he gets to see him do his job on a closer level. So maybe it could be something as simple as, not communicating well versus the mechanics of teaching people a certain position. But I do know, fans certainly can't grade Carson Walsh, but they all hated him because the Eagles receivers didn't produce, and he was the receivers coach. That's how it works. The problem is in this public-facing industry is sometimes guys got to pay the price because of the outside noise. It's not fair necessarily. And one of the things with Doug was extremely loyal. Now, that could be a good thing if you work through it and you're successful and your assistants know how loyal you are and you're fighting for them. One of my favorite stories about the Eagles and their haughtiness is, everybody loves Frank Reich now in Philadelphia because they won the Super Bowl and Frank left, and all of a sudden the offense went down. So, 2 + 2, right, Jody? Well, Frank left. They wanted to fire Frank after his first season in 2016. By they, I'm talking not Doug. I'm talking about Jeffrey Lurie and Harry Rose. They wanted him out of here after 1 year. And Doug stood up at that time, and it worked. And they kept him, and the rest is history. And now Frank, because he left and wasn't a part of the downturn, will forever be loved as this great offensive mind, and he was the reason for all the success, at least with a large portion of the fan base. But that's how, razor thin the margin of error can and can't be. John DiFilippo had a huge impact on that Super Bowl win as well. He was the one who really reshaped the offense after Carson Wentz went down. And people kind of forget when Nick Foles came in the regular season. He wasn't great. He wasn't great early on running the offense Carson was running. And the Eagles said, we can't do things the same way. And they sort of reshaped the whole offense. And John DiFilippo went to Nick Foles and said, what are you comfortable doing? What do you like doing? And then you saw all the RPOs come into the offense. And all of a sudden he turns into Vinnie Johnson in the playoffs, and the rest is history.
On the fly, they redid the entire offense, which was amazing.
Yeah. And that was flipped more than anybody else. And he left, and he wasn't a success in Minnesota. And he wasn't a success in Jacksonville. But narratives are narratives, and coaching is, this is a scapegoat league, Jody. If you don't succeed, somebody's got to pay. It's just the way. It's not fair, but it's the way it is.
And it's not just the National Football League. It's basically every league. After last
pro sports in general.
My daughter texted me last night after the Phillies collapse, and she worked with Joe Girardi hand in hand at the MLB Network several years ago. And she said he was the best guy, nicest guy. Any assignment that he had, he was open to listening, whatever else. When the Phillies hired him, she was ecstatic. Last night, she said they should fire Girardi today. That's the want of the fan. Yeah. What happened in the last 10 minutes? And let's make a major decision and react to it. So she was ready to fight. So it's not just coaches in the NFL. It's every single sport. It's the same exact thing. You mentioned the Eagles front office. Your buddy Jeff McClain yesterday reported the Eagles are interviewing some candidates Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl director, who formerly had been front office guy around the league, and Brandon Hunt. If the Steelers are going to take Andy Weidel, the Eagles might look to try and take a piece out of the Steelers front office. Brandon Hunt, who's been there for a long time. Timeline on this. If you have information on either of you two guys, if you think it's a yay, a nay, or a maybe, please share. But just generally, what do you think the timeline is?
They will have it done, I would say, by the end of the month. The Eagles, as I said, they will restructure the personnel department, announce it all at once. Typically, is how they like to do it, because they moved on from some lower level scouts as well. Brandon Hunt is an interesting one to me because they wanted him before. They interviewed him when Andy got the job, so Andy got elevated, but they wanted him to be a part of the department, and they couldn't get him away from Pittsburgh. So Jim Nagy's interesting because he's kind of famous in the football world, and I do think that would be an interesting hire because he's done a great job at the Senior Bowl. I think he would be more of and this is just speculation, I think he would be more of a potential replacement for Catherine Raich as the all-encompassing sort of umbrella over all the departments and just personnel, whereas Brandon would be just personnel. And it's interesting because he got interviewed for the Steelers job, so he might get promoted there. He got interviewed, I know, for the Raiders job before they went with Dave Ziegler. So he's an up and comer. He's a big name. It'll be interesting to see if they can pry him out of Pittsburgh.
We shall see if something does happen within the next week. We're coming up on a weekend, but not before the Rooks get together for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's just one of many things we're going to talk about with our next guest. Haven't had him on the show before. Looking at punching him up for the first time. Victor Williams from Fox Sports, The Gambler, going to join us here on Birds 365.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glasses for cocktails, right?
It's for this, this, and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365. You got McMullen and McDonald hanging with you. We've got a guest we haven't had on the show before, but we're looking forward to talking to him today. He's from Fox Sports The Gambler here in Philadelphia. Victor Williams joins us. Victor, Jody Mack, and John McMullen here. What are you betting on today?
Oh man, not a Sixers win, that's for sure.
Oh no!
Yeah,
come on, Joel's going to get through the protocol.
Yeah, we gotta
have some hope, Victor.
We better hope so, man. Harden assists, that's about all you can really bet on these days. Maybe maxi threes. But yeah, that money line's not looking too hot right now.
Yeah, I don't know about threes. This team hasn't been shooting very well in the playoffs, but
not really.
All right, let's turn positive because everybody's excited about the Eagles right now after a draft, which, you know, it's interesting. They had volume to start, but it turned into only 5 picks, but the 2 at the top specifically, and one wasn't even a pick, and that's AJ Brown. Jordan Davis, AJ Brown, 2 potential difference makers. Victor, what were your feelings coming out of that first day of the draft?
Yeah, day one, this had to be, and this might sound like kind of like blasphemous on my end, but this is the most impressive draft class I've seen like in my lifetime. The first pick, the Jordan Davis pick, I was pretty excited about, but I was a known Kyle Hamilton guy. I was hammering the table for him. So to see him there was getting me excited. And then once Jordan Davis fell to the point where it was Baltimore there, and everybody and their mom knew that Baltimore was gonna grab him there because he fits their identity on defense. So once they traded up, we all knew it was going to be Jordan Davis, and you can't help but be excited for the player that he is. As I think he's one of the rare high floor, high ceiling prospects in this draft. You don't get too many of those in too many draft classes. And if you can have a guy who's going to, in his rookie year, project as a 2-down run stopper, and then later on maybe develop a pass rush game, get an arsenal in that area, it's hard not to like that pick, especially with Hargrave and Cox entering contract years. I believe Hargrave is a free agent next year. Yes. So you got to shore up that. You gotta get a big guy in the middle. The Eagles live and die by the trenches, as we all know. I think Jordan Davis doesn't fit a lot of schemes in today's NFL, but he fits what the Eagles do. So you have to like what they do there. And then AJ Brown, I mean, what more can be said about how we're going and getting a top 10? I think he's a top 10 receiver, a superstar receiver in this league at just 24 years old. I was in the camp that believed that the Eagles wouldn't invest this kind of money in a receiver just because.
I think we all were.
Yeah.
Howie said it, basically.
Exactly.
Howie said it and lied to us.
Just because I thought, like, why would they do that if they're still unsure? I don't even know unsure if they're still like trying to figure out the long-term stability of the QB position. And then, others would argue that now is actually the perfect time to go and invest money in that position while you're not committing so much money into the quarterback position. Jalen Hurts, what is it, 4 years, $6 million salaries. So you might as well do it now while you have the money. I just didn't think Howie would do it. So to not only give up trade capital, but to give him that $100 million extension, I was baffled, but I can't be upset about it. John, I saw a tweet you put out yesterday about this could potentially be the best duo in Philadelphia. And I thought that to myself, but I didn't have the courage to tweet it. So you had the courage that I didn't
got killed for it. But I said, as people read what they want to read, I said most talented.
Right.
Which I don't think there's much of a question. And everybody got into production. They haven't played a game. They haven't played. I get it. And the one I got most was Harold and Mike Quick. And it's interesting because of my age, obviously. People still claim recency bias. Like, I don't know who Harold Carmichael is. But my point with Harold, when Harold was here, I think it was in year 12 when Mike got here. AJ's 24.
Right.
Devontae's 23.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, these guys should be together for a long time together. As you mentioned, Jody and I went through it a couple of days ago, and we had AJ at about, not top 10, but we had him 11, 12, somewhere in that range. So
Top
right
12,
on the
bare
cusp.
minimum.
Yeah, right on the cusp of being a top 10 receiver. And then Devontae Smith, I've said this as well. I've got some you-know-what over this as well. I think ultimately he's going to be better.
Yeah,
he's going to be a better receiver than AJ Brown because, and we always put the caveat, obviously they have to stay healthy, but because of his route running, because of his skill, I think he's ultimately going to be the better of the two receivers. I've been around a long time. Jody's been around longer. I've never seen two receivers like this. I saw Chris Carter and Randy Moss. I covered that team.
Right.
I wouldn't say they're the most talented I've seen
right.
in this town. It's the most talented wide receiver duo I've ever seen.
Yeah, when I had read the tweet and I was thinking to myself, because obviously I'm 28 years old now, so Macklin and Deshaun for me is obviously the first duo you think about, and of course the talent supersedes that, because I would argue that neither of them were true like WR1s. Like they each had their own skill sets, but I don't think each of them were true like alpha receivers. And then I was starting to think to myself, was like Mike Quick and Chris Carter, like in the late 80s, like does that count? I wasn't even around for that, but I know at the time like Quick was injured when Carter was playing and that whole thing.
Plus Chris had issues, and Chris he gives Buddy Ryan credit all the time for saving his career.
Yeah, I was trying to think back to before I was around, and I was like, does that like count? Like,
he wasn't the player he turned into when he was here.
Right. So Macklin and Deshaun is all I got. So I'm with T.O. and Pinkston, but obviously T.O. carried the torch there. But
yes, he certainly did.
But do yourself a favor, Victor. Look up Christy Jones.
Oh yeah, never heard of a guy.
he and Irving Fryer did have one really good year together, paired outside for the Philadelphia Eagles.
What year was that?
93, 94.
I was born in 93, so
there you go.
There was Christy Jones.
You got a little research to do. All right, I'm flipping back over on the defense. You mentioned Jordan Davis and the excitement level when the Eagles picked them, and it looked like they were going to get either he or Hamilton, but they had to trade up to ensure that, because if they hadn't, then Washington may have taken Hamilton and Jordan Davis may have gone to the Ravens. So Howie Roseman did what he had to do to get the player that he specifically wanted. How much faith do you have that Jonathan Gannon, just for this year, we're not talking about 2023 or 24, 25, because according to Howie Roseman, they're just renting Jonathan Gannon, and he will probably be a head coach somewhere else in the National Football League this year. I need to see that first. But just for this year, how much faith do you have that with Hassan Reddick coming in, different piece, how to use him, Jordan Davis coming in, huge piece, how do you use him? How much faith do you have that the defensive coordinator is going to push all the right buttons with the defensive talent they've added?
Yeah, the second half of the season made me a little more confident. I think Gannon was better during that second half. They were playing guys like Garrett Gilbert and like Jake Fromm, so you had no choice but to be better during the second half of the season. But you have to try. You have to try to not you have to try to make Jordan Davis ineffective. Like if you're not using him the right way, then you just like are either not playing him or he's injured. Like that's the only way he can't be effective. And I think the Eagles were like third to last in sacks last year, so you have no choice but to be better with that. I think Hassan Reddick helps with that. They brought back Derek Barnett probably because the market allowed them to. Derek Barnett probably didn't think the market was going to be that lethal for him. And then we have to see how Brandon Graham is going to be after that Achilles. He's not getting any younger. And then Josh Sweat, who John, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, does he still have like a snap like requirement or like a minimum?
No, he's all clear. In fact,
he can play all the snaps now.
Yeah. If you ask Josh about his knee injury, you will get a glare. As far as he is concerned, he is past it.
So we're going to get like 70%
he dropped you on Twitter, John McMullen?
Not that I know of, but I haven't checked
Sweat
Josh.
yet. Oh.
Zach Pascal blocked me. Victor.
He did? Oh man. Yeah. You know his Instagram is private actually, Zach Pascal. He let me through. But yeah.
Well, and by the way, this is Jody's fault. Jody is the one who ripped Zach Pascal. I think he got me mixed up. Yeah.
This was before the AJ Brown trade, I assume, because
yeah.
you thought Zach Pascal was the only addition in the wide receiver rooms.
Yeah.
I wasn't following Zach Pascal on Twitter, so
Yeah.
if he blocked me, I wouldn't know about it. He probably blocked us both, Johnny Mac.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Now you bring up an interesting, because Jody and I were big fans of Kyle Hamilton as well.
Mm-hmm.
I called him the best pure football player in this draft.
He was.
So there is a little bit of a concern from this standpoint. Now, the Eagles weren't interested. We know they don't take safeties that high in the draft. They've never taken a safety in the first round. But when these types of things happen, and I go all the way back to Brandon Graham, and, you know, when Brandon was selected, Earl Thomas was the next on the board, and then it was Jason Pierre-Paul. So for years, it was like, oh, the Eagles could have had Earl Thomas. The Eagles could have had JPP. And then everybody fell in love with Brandon. Now everything's fine. But, you know, if Kyle Hamilton turns into what we all think he could turn into, that could become an issue in the coming years. Even last year, Victor, you know, it's sort of in a sleep right now because Justin Fields didn't play well last year. But if he ever turns the corner in Chicago, and the Eagles passed on him, there will be revisionist historians coming out of the woodwork. Any concern the Eagles made the wrong decision, should have taken Kyle Hamilton.
Maybe in the immediate future, because they need, like, there's an obvious hole at safety, even though some believe. So some people are higher on Marcus Epps than I am. I think he played fine in the role he was in last year as a starter. I'm not sure. So we have to see what the Eagles end up doing there. I wanted him mostly because the hole was there, and I felt like we could have gotten by another year with the defensive line depth that was currently on the roster. But long term, like, Kyle Hamilton is going to be, as we project him to be the playmaking safety for the foreseeable future for the next 8 to 10 years. And Jordan Davis, depending on his, like, conditioning and what kind of player he turns into, if he is only a guy that only plays, 40-50% of the snaps, and Kyle Hamilton is playing every down and making a difference for Baltimore, then people are going to be upset about it. But knowing the Eagles, they'll keep their depth on the defensive line. They'll make sure there's a stout rotation there, regardless of what happens. But from an impact standpoint, there's a very good chance that Hamilton could make the bigger impact than Jordan Davis.
All right, let me ask you where you've been heading off to, on what gambling websites you've been checking out. Everybody's got the ones that they play if you're signed up for multiple ones. Right now, the Cowboys are still the wagering favorite on most outlets to win the NFC East. How big a difference is there between them and the Eagles? Is it something worth looking at if you believe the Eagles are actually, on paper, your belief, and there may be some rooting interest behind it, the team that can win the NFC East this year? Is it a worthwhile look?
Yeah, I thought the Eagles had a chance at the division even before the draft. I thought they even with the addition of, like, Kaiser White and Hassan Reddick, I thought they made some good moves to make some headway in the division. And the Cowboys got worse, losing Amari Cooper. I know that $20 million a year at the time wasn't feasible, but then you looked at the way this wide receiver market fell, and then you start to look at it, and you're like, well, $20 million probably wasn't that bad for Amari Cooper. And who did they lose? Was it Randy Gregory that, like, faked them out faked them out and went to Denver? And that whole thing. So they took a few steps back, and we don't know what Ezekiel Elliott's going to be. He's declining basically every year, but they still have Tony Pollard there. But they still have the best quarterback in the division, in my opinion. So as long as Hurts takes the step that we all hope he takes, and that the organization hopes he takes, then I think the Eagles can win the division, especially with the pieces that Dallas lost this offseason.
You mentioned, if Jalen Hurts takes that step forward, Victor, what is that step for you? Because I think people don't realize this is it, man. After this year, you got to start talking extension. And I say all this time, you know, if you take Jalen Hurts and what he did last year, so Pro Bowl alternate, made the playoffs, solid season, that's worth $30 million in the NFL.
Today's NFL, yeah.
I don't think the Eagles want to pay $30 million for that. So it's a really, really difficult decision, because I always say this about Kirk Cousins, and I'm going to start saying it about Jalen Hurts. he's probably better than your quarterback, meaning he's top half, but is he ever going to get to that top 10 where you could say, okay, we can make a legitimate run at the Super Bowl? And how does he prove that other than making a legitimate run?
Well, from an extension standpoint, especially in today's NFL, right? Like extensions are being given out based on potential rather than production these days. In my opinion, I feel like gave one to Mailata because they project him to be here for the future. AJ Brown just got paid; they project him to be here until he's 29, 30 years old. I think if he takes, for me, I just want to see like if I could see 4,000 passing yards, and the eye test is going to play a big role this year too, because you want him to throw with anticipation better, you want him to go through his progressions a little better, and you want him to trust his guys a little more, which I assume he will now that he has a big body target in AJ Brown. So if you can visibly see on the eye test that he is progressing, and I think he did so towards the end of last season, whether that's due to the ankle injury or whether he was literally progressing, that's neither here nor there. But if I can visibly see the progression, and you want the stats to take an uptick, you definitely want to see more than 16 passing touchdowns. You hope that he can throw, 22, 23, and he keeps the rushing offense up. But I think if he can improve his accuracy, and I think that 4K threshold is a big deal, especially since Carson was the only one to do it ever in franchise history. I think if I'm right. So I think that's a big deal for the Eagles. But if the extension comes up next season, I think they're going to pay him based on potential rather than production of what he did in 2022, because if they're going to pay him based on production, the contract shouldn't be $30 million or whatever it's going to be for him following next season.
All right. Speaking of contracts, and are they worth it? I've been saying now all week long here on the show, I think the Eagles erred. Let me put it correctly. The Eagles might have gotten shortchanged. Honey Badger decided to sign with the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he may have wanted to go home. It may have been the deciding factor. We know what the contract was, 3 years, $33 million, 16 guaranteed. So it's not a 3-year deal. It's more like a 2-year deal. And the second one would be a little bit of a costly dead cap hit, but not outrageous to a team that ate $33 million with Carson Wentz this year.
Right.
Not like they've never done it before. They could have done it again. Now, I don't know if he would have signed here anyway. We know they had a virtual meeting with him. He met actually with the Saints, and it may have been a foregone conclusion that the homeboy was going home and he wanted to play in Louisiana. And if that's the case, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Other than maybe offer him a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think he got market value, not tremendously above, not tremendous. If the Eagles had to outbid the Saints, maybe it would have gotten into territory where you would have said that's a higher than average contract. How big a deal is it that the Honey Badger signed with the Saints and not with the Eagles, seeing as it seems to be those were the two teams it came down to?
Yeah, I was shocked at the contract personally. I thought he was commanding much more than that. So when I saw is this market value, John, for Matthew? I assumed he was going to get at least
at
like
his
15.
age, it's interesting because I always say Tyrann he's not even 30. He's going to turn 30. He's up. I forget when his birthday is.
You like to think?
He's played a lot of football, Victor. He came very into the league at a very young age. He's rarely been hurt, so there's a lot of tread off the tire, as they say. I've heard a number of times people say he's not the same when it comes to speed. So things happen quickly in this league. I'm surprised he got a 3-year deal, to be honest. I thought he would be more in the 2-year range, and I thought the Eagles probably only wanted to give him 1 year. So they were probably not in the conversation, much like Stephon Gilmore, same type of thing.
Right.
Eagles would have been in that at 1 year for a very cost-effective price, but that's sort of how they do business. The Eagles want to be in that range of 25, 26. That's who they're going to pay.
Substantial
that's
money,
the guys who are going to pay. And Jody brought this up the other day, so I'll bring it up to you. Chuck Clark, 26. The Ravens, we just talked about, they drafted Kyle Hamilton. They signed Marcus Williams. They paid him a ton of money. And that's sort of the range the Eagles were in on Marcus Williams, young player, still regarded as an ascending player. Chuck Clark. Why not Chuck Clark? Not the big name, not the Honey Badger big name. Joe Banner calls it the big name trap with guys like Tyrann Mathieu. Chuck Clark make more sense for the Eagles on the trade market.
Yeah, he certainly does. I broke down some safety options not too long ago, like did some video stuff on Instagram and things like that. And Chuck Clark is an intriguing option because, like you mentioned, they gave the bag to Marcus Williams. They brought in Kyle Hamilton. I know Baltimore sometimes likes to run 3 safeties, so we'll see how they plan to do that. But when you look at Chuck Clark, Philadelphia native, I believe, and they did move Hollywood Brown. So, like, whatever the situation is with Rager, like if that's a landing spot.
Oh, can you get wow? Now that would be some magic if Howie could pull that off.
So that's if you're going to throw Rager and a pick at him and get Chuck Clark, a guy who hasn't missed a snap over the last 2 years, a guy who's been the on-field signal caller for them the last 2 years, and he still has 2 years left on a team-friendly deal. So it's ideal. He's still under contract. He's under team control. It's a team that moved a speedy receiver and Rager. They need options. They have Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews. Like there's not many pass catching options over there once you move Hollywood Brown. So they're in a place where they can take a risk on Rager and maybe get rid of the odd man out at safety.
Here's the problem with that. If you're going to trade a pick for Chuck Clark, it'll probably be around the third.
Third is what
if
I'm
you
assuming.
Add Jalen Rager to the deal, it probably goes to a second.
You got to pay somebody to take Rager.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at here. So
now you brought up Jody before, and Victor brings up a good point. You know, Chuck was that leader in the secondary. The Eagles need a leader on defense as well. Well, that's a good bit. That's a good bit. I don't know if the Ravens want to get rid of him because he's a good player.
I didn't either. When I first put it out there, I had no idea if they had any desire whatsoever to move him, and they may not. I've not seen his name floated out there as a trade rumor or anything along those lines. It just was a figure thing to me because they've got 2 new safeties. Both of which
they love running 3 though. Clark is the perfect third guy for them, so I wouldn't be shocked if they decide not to move him at all. But if they do, can't find better options, because what are the other options? You have Tart from San Francisco, who dropped the pick in the NFC Championship game. You have Deshaun Gibson is out there.
Isn't he the midfielder for Ted Lasso's team?
Yes, he is. Jamie Tart. Yes.
I get confused. Football. Sometimes I get confused. I apologize.
But you have Gibson, who's 31 and is on the back end. Landon Collins is a post-June 1st cut, but he's like a linebacker these days.
Yeah. Big name trap with Landon Collins.
Yeah, and he's been to 2 NFC East teams. You don't really want to deal with a third. So the safety options are getting slim. So is it the Marcus Epps and Kayvon Wallace show? And then you look at CB2. Are they going to run CB2 by committee with Tay Gowen and McPherson and some of these undrafted guys with Josh Jobe and Goodrich? Or do they entertain guys like Rhodes and Trey Waynes, who are both banged up, and no Gannon? So the shoe fits, but the secondary needs some attention unless Sirianni likes the young talent he has, which I'm inclined to believe he does. So
I put this to John yesterday, so I'll put it to you today, Victor. And John actually corrected me. He said, "No, Jody, there's no such thing as cross-training in the secondary.
I doubt it.
If you go to another position, they make the decision. You're A or B. You're not A, B. You have to pick or choose one of the 2 sides."
There's a few guys. Malcolm played everywhere.
Well, Malcolm, they had to. They had no option.
There's a very few. It's not like the offensive line where they specifically, try to cross-train. That's what I was trying to.
But right now, as per the guys who are on the roster, they have about 42 cornerbacks and 4 safeties.
Yep.
So I'm just looking at quote unquote DBs and going, which of the many cornerbacks that they had on the roster before the draft and the undrafted free agent signings, which they signed several cornerbacks and
3 of them,
one safety. Maybe there's one in the group that could be genuinely moved to the safety. If it's got to be a hard and fast move and you can't cross-trade them, and John tells me they just don't do that, okay, I believe you. Who's the most likely candidate of the present-day rostered cornerbacks who can get some times and maybe make a switch in position and open everybody's eyes at safety?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you who it's not going to be because I see like fans screaming for like Maddox to move there, but they paid him to like be the nickel guy, like to be the long-term solution there. So why?
Might cause two problems. Then you got nobody to play nickel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is? I don't understand. But how fans get, they want to, they want to shift positions and plug holes. But I get it. He has the range and has like the playmaking to do it. But he's the solidified nickel there. After he struggled on the outside, there's no sense in moving him when he finally figured out who he was. So let's not do that. If I had to pick one of these guys to play safety that's currently on the roster, that's not like a solidified safety, I would probably lean towards, and I know this is kind of a reach because they are undrafted guys, but Job and Goodrich probably have the most talent, like raw talent, as far as playing that position, because Job has done it in college and Goodrich has done it to an extent in college. And Job was supposed to be a fourth rounder, I believe, but then he had foot surgery in December that kept him out of the college playoff game. And he did struggle a little bit in 2021 because he played most of his career across from Pat Surtain. So once he leaves, it's an adjustment period. And Goodrich has some skills too. So if they're going to battle it out there, if they're not going to be, cornerback 2 or what have you, I would try one of those guys out at safety and see if they stick.
Yeah, I saw a number of scouts sort of project Josh as a safety.
Mm-hmm.
So
he has the build for it.
Yeah. That's probably a good name. I did ask the Eagles specifically, is he coming in as a safety or corner? They said corner, but that could change after this weekend.
Yeah. We'll get them in rookie camp and switch them all up.
And a lot depends on, who can they get. Maybe if they get James Bradbury, they start they start thinking about moving guys. Or if they get a safety, maybe they don't think about start moving guys. So there could be a domino effect there. I do think you're going to see a veteran defensive back at some point, like last year when we saw.
That doesn't mean he'll start, but you need
that
guy in here.
And they need somebody to start. They do, because they need a veteran presence, whether it's on the back end at corner, as we saw with Steve Nelson last year.
What if Slay goes down? Like, what happens? Like,
don't even
in
say
trouble.
that.
Yeah, that's something, like, you have to think about these situations. Like, if God forbid, I know he's an Iron Man and he plays through a lot of stuff, but if he goes down,
even last year, Darius had, I think, 2 concussions
and the whole bit. And
so you start getting worried about concussions as well.
He's turned 31 now. Like Father Time waits for nobody. The decline will happen at some point.
Well, I'll end it there with you, Victor. And before I do, follow Victor on Twitter at the Philly Pod. You can read him at thelibertyline.com. You can hear him on Fox Philly The Gambler. When you talk about the draft, we'll end it there. You got difference makers, but you lost volume. So when we all had the Eagles with 10 picks and we said, well, they're going to take a running back at some point. They're going to take a tight end at some point. They ended up getting Grant Calcaterra. They're going to take a corner. They're going to take a safety. Any concern that they didn't have that volume on day 3? Or are you happy with the undrafted guys? Because they spent some significant money. You brought up Josh Jobe, the kid from Clemson, Carson Strong at quarterback, Kennedy Brooks at running back. They had a big undrafted free agent budget. Did they get enough quality day 3 type bodies?
Well, my one knock against the Jordan Davis stuff, like when it happened, was that they gave up 4 picks, like 2 5th rounders and like a later pick just to move up 2 spots. So when I saw it, I was like, that's a lot of capital to move up 2 spots.
I said that too, Victor, when it happened. But then I realized, okay, at 18, they needed 101, because my actual prediction in Sports Illustrated was they would trade 15 and 101 to get up to 13 to take Davis. So the only thing I got wrong was the package. But then they needed that 101 pick to get A.J. Brown. So then it made more sense. But they did lose volume. They did lose volume, and that part could be a concern.
Yeah, that's why I was indifferent. I'm a little better about it now, because like, who am I to argue against? Like, Jason Kelsey's like handpicked people, but like, I was indifferent about the Cam Jurgens thing because, and I know that like Booth was off the board and Brisker was off the board, so whoever you did take in the secondary was likely going to be a reach at that point. But I was so focused on secondary in the second round that when the Jurgens pick happened, I was like, oh, why are we like, what is what is going on here? But then you get mentally, I like flip the Nakobe Dean and the Jurgens pick in my mind, and then like it helps me mentally sit at ease a little better. But I think that the undrafted guys are very good value because Goodrich got a like bigger deal than most undrafted guys get. I believe. I think they spent like decent money.
Oh
on
yeah,
him.
yeah.
So that's not a guy too many undrafted guys get. So you like to believe he's going to carve out some type of role on this team. So if it wasn't for them like jumping on like 3 undrafted corners within minutes after the draft, I know they got the quick kid out of Duke. I forget his name. Blackwell, I think.
Josh Blackwell. Yeah.
Yeah, they got him. They signed a Jerry Howard out of Towson yesterday. He's a big bodied back. So they got some options. But how
I got a power forward from Penn State coming in to try out.
A powerful like basketball, like never played football before.
No, he played football in high school.
Oh, I was like, well, they're taking some like unconventional routes this year. Like Devin Allen, like what are your expectations for him? Is he gonna stick? Like what's he gonna be?
Yeah. Now I gotta get his name real quick. It's for all you college basketball fans. It is John Harrar, Harrar. 6'9", 240, Penn State power forward, coming in to try out as a tight end. You look excited, Jed.
Well, I know who wants
J-Jaw's spot though.
I know who wants him to win a job. The headline writers around the city, because Horror Show writes its.
I can't wait to make the merch for that.
That's just me. Last thing for me, Victor. John and I debated this a little bit earlier. Will Nakobe Dean here in year number 1 play more snaps at middle linebacker or outside linebacker?
But he's an off-ball guy, right? So for the most, like he's. Well, we have to see like how confident are we that like he's fully healthy? Number one, like
right.
I know
I'm saying when he's on the field, don't know how many snaps he's going to play. I think he's going to stay healthy, but when he plays, more at middle or more outside.
I'll give him middle because he is legit like he was the heart of the Georgia defense, and I think Kaiser White will be better in an outside role. I think Nakobe Dean will play more snaps in the middle linebacker and sort of command.
TJ gets no love, man.
He's the guy you forget about.
I'm a TJ guy, but sorry, he got trumped. They got the best middle linebacker in the draft. What are you gonna do? Sit him?
I'm a Davion Taylor guy personally.
That undrafted label follows guys like wow to an unfair degree.
He's tied to Alex Singleton. Yeah, that's why.
I got to cover John Randall, man. I'm like, at some point, you got to drop the undrafted stuff.
I'm an Edwards guy, but I'm just a bigger Nakobe Dean guy.
As you should be. Like Edwards is fine for like when you had Alex Singleton and like Nate Gary here. Like of course now he's as the third linebacker.
Right. I'm going to change. I always say Marcus Epps is the most disrespected member of the Eagles from the fan base's perspective.
He deserves to start next year, you think?
Yeah. Well, right now. But if they bring in Chuck Clark, no.
Oh yeah.
But I'm gonna ship that to TJ Edwards. TJ gets no respect, man. None. Good football player.
He's the third best linebacker on this team now. Unless you're not a Kaiser White guy. Do you not like Kaiser White?
Hey, I like Kaiser. I like Kaiser, but 1 year, the contract tells you a lot.
Well, I think he's underrated too. He has an arsenal. I don't want to say
he's definitely athletic. And he's the type of linebacker the Eagles have been looking for, sort of the modern linebacker that can cover former safety, former rover. But hey, nobody cares about run support in this league. Nobody. And certainly not in May. I tell Jody this all the time. And then they get to December and they're like, oh, we can't stop the run. I wonder why.
Run over. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, if you ask Jalen Reagor, who's the most disrespected Eagle, he'll tell you Jalen Reagor. So
I'd be very shocked if he's on this roster. I know, John, you probably know some stuff I don't, but I would be very shocked if he was here next in these coming months.
He's still here. He and Andre Dillard still here. Everybody had them out of town.
He tried to trade him during the draft. He tried to move during the draft.
How he's playing hardball with Jalen. He wants something in return.
That might be.
Good luck with that, John. I do have one question for you as far as linebackers, because you have Kaiser, Nakobe Dean, two guys that I haven't seen like cover as much ground. I'm probably disrespecting Michael Kendricks a little because he could move.
Michael could move.
Yeah, he could move. So he probably could cover some ground. But like other than him, what was the last? And I do have a hot take after this. But who was the last linebacker you've seen cover some ground like in the way that Nakobe Dean can in that defense?
Here, Michael. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah.
I said it when they drafted. I think when they signed Kaiser, Michael could move. His
Yeah.
brother too. His brother's maybe the
Eric?
best coverage, linebacker in the NFL right now.
Oh wow.
But yeah, Michael could really run. But Nakobe's more instinctive, way more instinctive than Michael Kendricks. That's
here's
positive.
my Nakobe Dean stance. He's a slightly smaller, because I know you got to say that, because otherwise, if I make the comparison and I don't put the qualifier out there, people will kill me.
Yes, they will.
He's slightly smaller Jeremiah Trotter.
Oh, that was my hot take. You stole it.
We know how good Jeremiah Trotter was, but Trotz was a big guy.
Trot was a huge guy. Trot was downhill,
big dude.
Yeah, he was a legit run. Yeah, he was a run support guy.
Yeah, that was my hot take. My hot take was that if the medicals check out and he stays healthy, he has a chance to be the most impactful linebacker here since Trotter. That's it. I'm living by it. I'm dying by it.
You and I together on that one, Victor. Victor, appreciate you coming on, bud. We will certainly get you back on again. Did a good job today. Thank you much. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you soon enough.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, got it. Victor Williams from Fox Sports The Gambler and the Philly Pod here with us on Birds 365. All right, Mac and Mac coming back. We're running out of time, so it'll be a quick bow on the show.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glasses for cocktails, right?
It's for this, this, and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Yeah, okay, but is the rib...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
All right, Mac and Mac guys coming back to put a bow on the show with this episode of Birds 365. And I don't know what it is about that commercial, John. We see that stateside commercial.
I love that commercial.
Several times every single day.
That commercial.
And every time when the guy goes to the tie, when he gets caught having the cocktail, when the day is supposed to be over. I'm sorry, it makes me smile.
I love it.
I should be so effing tired of that commercial by now. but it makes me smile every time I see it. But that's another story. All right, other than having a stateside vodka, what do you got planned for this weekend, McMullen?
Eagles rookie camp. I gotta run down there pretty quickly after we get up the air. Excited to see. Now I'm more excited to see Josh Jobe than I was before. See Josh Jobe.
Different way to look at him. See Nakobe Dean playing middle linebacker. You should notice.
Well, I want to see Nakobe on the field. Yeah, hopefully he's on the field. Howie tells me he's going to be on the field.
He says he's going to be on the field. He's on WIP yesterday. He says, I don't know where they're coming up with all this injury stuff. I'm good to go. So that should be exciting. All right, I'm heading up to Parks. I'd invite you to come with me, but no, you got to get down to South Philly. I'm going up north of Philly to Parks. We're having a racing seminar for the Kentucky Derby Run for the Roses today, 12:30 till 12 to noon to 2:30. I will be giving out winners, including
I was picking your brain for some winners myself the other day.
Well, you can, if you're so motivated, the wagering outlet right across from the Eagles Workout Center is taking advanced Derby wagering today. You couldn't have bet it yesterday, but you can bet it today if you want to get down on the Kentucky Derby, and feel free to listen to your partner's advice.
Well, I'm certainly not taking my advice, so it's all on you, brother.
Go make a couple of bucks.
Right.
We got a couple of long shots. If there's a chance we're not going to hit. If we hit, we'll hit big this weekend.
Well, I'm counting on you, Jody.
All right, McMullen.
This is all Jody Mack. That's all. It's
Mac
no. Yes.
They've been calling me Mac at the track for 40 years, and there's a reason for that. Partner, I say we do this again next week. You up for it?
Let's do it. Another productive week in the books, Jody.
We'll be back in 2 and 2. That's days, that is. See you Monday, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.